इंडिया में I feel that हम लोगों ने कभी नहीं सोचा कि यार ये इसमें कमर्शियल एलिमेंट नहीं है. I just felt that there is happiness.
It was a very, very unique experience compared to the last 3 films I had directed, and one which I really enjoyed a lot.
Everything is related to that, the final goal of what the film says.
I was assisted Shashank on both Ankahi and Badri, and I worked with Shakun on Kapoor and Sons as well. There are different styles of storytelling.
मुझे पसंद नहीं आता इसका मतलब ये नहीं कि वो होना नहीं चाहिए. Is what I mean.
Shashank, Neeraj, Raj, Kayoze, welcome on Bollywood and Hungama.
Thank you, Faridoon.
Thank you,
Faridoon.
I think all the films in Ajeeb Daastaans, they're doing very well. People are liking it. Everyone has their preferences, but very unusual films from all of you. Neeraj, not exactly. He's that's his territory, core territory primarily. All right, but so whom should I start with? I'll start with Kayoze. Kayoze, one of the sentiments that I had while watching Ankahi was that the medium that you had for telling your story, maybe it allowed you not to get bothered about that how certain actors or actresses they need to be presented because of the certain stereotypes we have,
right,
in terms of movies when they're meant for big screen. Like I felt that you presented Shefali Shah as a woman, of course, but presented as a girl. There's a young girl inside her,
right,
and you don't feel at all that she's the mother of a grown-up kid or anything of that sort. How important was it for you to just break those stereotypes, first of all, in your mind and in the audience's mind? Because it comes across very naturally.
If I'm completely honest with you, there was no conscious such effort.
Of course.
Where we went out there thinking that we'll break the stereotype of any sort. I did have a thought in my head that Natasha, the character which Shefali plays, she has, you can see that she's not enjoyed her youth. And she's not enjoyed beginning parts of In fact, we came up with a backstory that this was a love marriage, and they were actually college sweethearts. But immediately along the way, while life kicked in and while normalcy came in, you realize that life is not that simple. It's not all sunshine and rainbows. And so we actually based it on a song. There's a Billy Joel song called "Scenes from an Italian Restaurant," and the lyrics have a lot to do about a young couple who get married and then it all goes wrong. So that's what we based the backstory completely on. So honestly, there was no conscious effort as such. I'm glad if people felt that way, but there was no conscious to break a mold.
Raj, so it's a good news that there's another side to Raj Mehta. Completely
yeah,
different side.
I hope so. I hope there are more sides that we haven't explored yet.
Right. Okay, you've been an assistant director on several films for quite some time. Does it help that you're working maybe on a different wide palette of films as an assistant director? Does that help in terms of just shaping your own mind space?
Absolutely, 100%. I think that was always the idea also. I mean, not that you do it consciously, but the idea was to work with different filmmakers. And I was assisted Shashank on both Ankahi and Badri. And I worked with Shakun on Kapoor and Sons as well. So there are different styles of storytelling, and the way they deal with the scene, the way Shashank writes or Shakun writes or all the other filmmakers that I've worked with before. I think you just absorb. It's just about, absorbing, just seeing them work and absorbing and hopefully be able to apply, the best parts of that in your own film. So it definitely helps, 100%.
All right, Shashank, surprising from you once again, my Majnu. You enjoyed the space because it is completely unlike what you've done on the big screen so far.
Oh, I absolutely enjoyed it. And as I've mentioned earlier in multiple interviews, I actually found it very easy, or rather my territory to write it. Because when you start out as a student of cinema or when you start out watching films, we are entertained and we are emotionally touched by multiple genres of films. Sometimes when we take decisions of making it in the film industry, we go with what is, your first film might not necessarily be the only genre that you are comfortable with or you enjoy. So though I have made love stories so far, while growing up, while learning, while in film school, while watching cinema, there are multiple genres which excited me, which you wanted to be a part of. And I think this short film gave me that opportunity to kind of, also break the kind of zone I have been in so far. And just go out there and express myself in 30 minutes, tell the story I want to tell, not worry too much about commercial pressures. And I think that kind of is very liberating. You have it, for me personally, it was a very, very unique experience compared to the last three films I had directed, and one which I really enjoyed a lot.
So you just said commercial pressures. Now, if you can be honest and let us know that how tough is it for a director that आपकी film जो है वो चल जाती है और फिर एक जनरल एक जो हवा जो इंडस्ट्री में होती है कि भाई जो चीज चल गई है उस पे से हाथ मत उठाओ, bad luck मत लाओ अपने लिए, just stick to that context most of the time. And many times people they tend to do it. As you said that this was a liberating experience for you. With your experience in the film industry so far, and you're not someone who's from the industry, what is the importance of risk taking for you as a storyteller?
It's not an individual journey, because I might be willing to take a risk, but maybe the producers who are backing me might not be ready to take a risk. Maybe the actors I'm approaching might not be ready to take a risk. So I would say that we are constantly making an effort. I personally can speak for myself. I'm trying to write in multiple genres. I'm trying to pitch scripts which are of multiple genres. The next film that I am making is, though it's a completely different genre from what I've done. It's a comic thriller. So I'm trying my best. I think more experience that you gain in the industry, more and more actors, more technicians, more producers become comfortable that okay, you can dabble in multiple genres. एक थोड़ा temptation हमेशा रहता है for even a producer कि oh, your love stories have done so well, stick to that. Actors also, I mean, if I approach an actor with a love story, I think he's more willing to work with me than if I'm approaching him with a genre which I have not tried and tested. But I think it's a matter of time. Like, for example, I'm sure after some people see this film on Netflix, they will realize that, okay, there are multiple genres that someone can dabble in, and it will give us an opportunity to create. And to be really honest, I'm not thinking so much. I feel I'm just 7-8 years into the film industry. I've made 3 films. I'm sure in the next few years, I will get an opportunity to make many more. And in that, I will dabble in multiple genres. I will definitely go back to making love stories as well, because that's something I like. And I don't want to make it genre specific. I think stories are something which you connect to. If it touches the heart, it's a good story. If it doesn't touch a heart, it's a bad story. So that's about it.
Now, Neeraj, you're getting a great response for Geeli Pucchi. आपका एक quote है, आपने किसी interview में आपने कहा है कि that living in their cocoons, they have never seen or heard of how things happen and don't understand at all. This is, you had said about second generation Bollywood producers and directors who do not see religion, class or caste in their movies. So you see that they've never seen or heard of how things happen and don't understand. So can you elaborate on that? That's a very interesting statement.
Actually, Faridoon, what I meant to say was that, there was a question about, why is it happening? And do you think that, Hindi film industry, is it really inclusive if they don't acknowledge caste at all? So what I was trying to say is that, of course, we are way far behind in terms of acknowledging the representation of people on the basis of caste in Bollywood. So immediately people should not think that I'm saying that, okay, it is casteist or whatever. No, it's just that people from those communities aren't there at all. Like, a while back I was actually quoting some figures where, let's say if I have to ask you that, how many black artists that you know of, directors, songwriters, actors, directors, there's so many of them that you can quote, like 100 of them you can quote right now. And Black American population is 13%. And we're talking about Dalit population that is 25%. And if you add OBC as well, it becomes 70%. And there is no representation in cinema. So you've literally ghosted out 70% of our population from cinema. Hence, the need is to bring people on board for them to say their narratives. It should not be the only 10% that we're constantly showing and only the 10% make films. That was the whole idea. While having said that, what I wanted to emphasize was that in industry, we are very fairly inclusive people. And I hate that we are always called this very frivolous sort of industry, but we are genuinely people who care for each other. And I've kind of seen the kind of love that Karan or any of the other studios have shown to me after my first film. It only goes on to say that people really don't think, it's just that they've never been privy to it. They've never had any stimulus to see कि भाई caste मतलब ये होता है. Like, there's been no, they've had no attention to that at all. So you can even talk about discrimination later once people are there, but there's been nothing. That was what I meant. That people, I mean, I didn't mean to say that they're no cocoon. It's just that they're ignorant right now, and it is coming to a point where people are trying to find out. Like I've had actually a lot of talks with directors, producers, writers, and they're suddenly opening up to it and realizing that, oh my God, we're so far behind. We need to catch up. We're like at least a millennia behind Hollywood in terms of representation, and that kind of thing. So that was what I meant.
Okay. And do you feel that when it comes to say caste discrimination, a lot of I think wonderful stories are being attempted, have been attempted in regional cinema, like for example in Marathi, they've done some really phenomenal work.
No, I agree. Like actually, if you see, Nagaraj Manjule is doing amazing stuff in Marathi. Paranjit is doing amazing stuff in Tamil. So what's also happening is that we also have to somewhere let them speak their story. It's very essential because it comes from a point of lived experience, which is sort of lacking in Bollywood because most of the Dalit narratives that are being made is made by people from not from the community. The people are from more of the privileged caste community, and they have a very, how do I say, it's a very Gandhian gaze of looking at things, and it's very sort of patronizing in that sense that it's like we are the saviors, we'll help you out. There are only two narratives that exist. One is that oh, poor atrocities is happening to these Dalit people. Oh, poor people. Oh, so sad. Or it's like, oh, there is a hero from the privileged caste who's going to save the day. Those are the only two narratives, but they don't get into humanizing characters. They don't get into making them the protagonists of the stories. That's why they appeal more in regional cinema because they're coming from their point of view. These narratives are led from their point of view, not like they being a secondary actor or a subplot in the whole thing. They are the mainstay. They are driving the story. That's what I feel.
All right. Okay. Kayoze, now for most parts. Okay.
Right.
Now, considering that quite a bit of your film is having sign language, how important was it for you to have a very apt background score to really communicate the emotion?
Oh, that's absolutely bang on because the discussion that we had with which we had with Tanuj, who did our background score, was that the background score is going to be the script, the words of the film. You're going to tell people what they are saying through the score, and it was the longest process in the post production part of the film, and where he composed and we recomposed, and there were scenes where we said, well, we don't always want the people to look down at the subtitles. We're hoping sometimes they look at the character's eyes. So we said, if there's simple things to be said, if there are things that are understood to be said, let's stay on the faces, and you accentuate it by what lead the audience with the music. And so we really spent a lot of time. In fact, he came back to me after we composed it and said, listen, we need to make this sound richer, so we need to do it all live. And what he did was, on his own, actually, with help, he used some sort of influence or whatever. He got the Budapest Symphony Orchestra to record the whole thing live. And we were, of course, on Zoom. But it was the biggest part for me. And I really felt that the film elevated, at least in my eyes, from the edit to the whole, with sound design, of course.
All right. Okay. And Raj, so you got, I think, some wonderful performances. I think Nushrat. So Nushrat, we all know that she has tremendous potential. She's a different person altogether when she's doing these sort of roles. And I think what she did in Love, Sex, or Dhoka, that was really wonderful. So how do you decide on casting your actors? Because someone like Nushrat, she doesn't have an image per se, and it's a grey character. It's a very interestingly grey character that makes it so interesting to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Faridoon, that's the advantage with OTT as well, is that sometimes you can, in commercial cinema, I think if you will agree with me, sometimes there are certain other factors that you have to keep in consideration while casting for a film. Whereas I feel like what OTT provides is the freedom and the ability to cast exactly as per the parts. And I'm not talking about Nushrat specifically, but generally speaking, you can cast actors who you feel are best for that particular part and will be able to portray that best. So Nushrat, someone that I knew had great potential as an actor, and I could totally see her in the character. And I mean, she did surprise me. We had seen her in her commercial avatar and all the films that she's done otherwise. But I was very, very pleasantly surprised when I started reading the scenes with her, or eventually got to the set with her and stuff. And I think she's an actor with great potential. And I think I got lucky with the cast, with the other actors as well, whether it's Abhishek or whether it's Inayat, the little girl, who I thought was fantastic. So yeah, I mean, it's I think I got lucky with the actors, and thankfully the medium provides you the ability to just cast without considering any other factors.
So Shashank, so he's saying about medium. Now, when you're having that particular scene where that employee, तेल में उसको तला जाता है. So now I don't think that you would attempt that in a mainstream film per se.
No, I would say it depends. I mean, if I'm Anurag Kashyap and I'm making Gangs of Wasseypur, probably I might attempt it. So I think we should not get limited by the depth. Not just talking about, if you talk about Neeraj's film Masaan, I think Masaan is mainstream. I don't look at Masaan as any other kind of film. I think it's a mainstream film. So I think a lot of times with discussions like these, we are actually limiting ourselves by calling a certain film commercial or certain film non-commercial, certain film mainstream or not. I look at it very simply. I made Badrinath Ki Dulhania, for example. For me, it's still the core of the story which is important. My presentation was song and dance, and it could have celebration and whatever it leads to. That's the way I decided to treat the film. That same story can be taken by another filmmaker and treated very differently. So I think what's more important also is that we ourselves stop this discussion about this is mainstream and that is mainstream. I feel when we will stop having this discussion, we will honestly look at actors in their wholesome. Like, Raj said that we still limit ourselves by saying this actor is not commercial enough or this actor is more commercial. I think once we stop that discussion and say that this is the actor whom I believe is the best person to pull off this role, and that's how we go with it, I'm sure we will be able to break this so-called divide between mainstream cinema, commercial, art house, or whatever these names are. I feel stories are stories. Debut filmmakers have challenges while casting a film sometimes, and sometimes out of that challenge is born a great talent. Sometimes you find things easier. So, I mean, there are multiple things which go into making a film. So I really feel I don't look at it from that perspective. If I am looking for a film, let's say, in which I want my protagonist to dance and act and do multiple things, I will go to that actor. I might tomorrow make a film where I don't require that. I don't require my actor to be a good dancer because I'm not thinking of this. I require him to be of a certain, training whereby I need to pull off this kind of performance from him. I will go to that actor. So I think it comes down to that. And I really feel this mainstream thing is getting more and more, wider. It's not as limited as it was a few years ago. Of course, it's still, like even Neeraj rightly said, it's a long way. We are still fighting a battle which is going to take more time. But I think we will slowly get there. I think it's really important we stop having conversations like this and really say that, for me, I feel Patal Lok is as mainstream. It might have come on, a OTT platform, but for me, it's as mainstream because it's got that kind of viewership and people have enjoyed it.
No, basically, I took off from what Raj said in terms of the platform. So I was not saying Correct. Mainstream or not Correct. Mainstream. So I was just saying platforms. Because, जैसे क्या होता है कि OTT पे आपको you're not selling tickets, so you're having a ready-made reach of say 200 countries, for example. So you don't have to worry about कि ये अगर मैंने scene डाला तो पता नहीं उसमें लोग
Correct.
Even you are from the industry. I've been covering for quite some time.
And as I said that. Definitely.
Those are projects.
And as I said, it's definitely far more liberating. And also, as I said, I will say it's far. It's still catering to a different audience altogether. If you just go by pure division of numbers in terms of cinema going audiences and stuff, I feel Netflix is definitely. I mean, for filmmakers like us, it's amazing that we are getting to reach an audience like this. And with that comes a slight change in mentality. Like, for example, जो आपने कहा correct है, मैं जब ये film लिख रहा था, I definitely had this thing that, I don't need to do a few things that I do when I'm making, for example, a Dulhania film or Dhadak or whatever other film I'm making, which I can do when I'm making a Netflix film, is my thought process. But I'm saying not necessarily that's correct. It's the first time I made something for Netflix. So maybe, as I said that, the platform is not looking at this, but maybe that was my way of assessing it. And with more and more content that I will create, maybe I will realize that, I don't need to worry about an audience. I just need to worry about what kind of story I want to tell. And if I'm authentic in that, it will find its own audience.
No, definitely. It definitely presents you in a very different light from what we've seen of you earlier. Now, say, taking off from here, Neeraj, when you were making Masaan, for example, and you've had the experience of how films are perceived, did you at any point of time give into any sort of discussion कि कुछ एक catchy element कुछ तो डालो आप, कुछ तो एक ऐसा चीज होना चाहिए जिसकी वजह से tickets बिके? Because मैं जितना आपको जानता हूँ, मुझे आप मतलब थोड़ा सा नॉन कॉम्प्रोमाइजिंग टाइप के आप आदमी हैं. मैं आपसे ये जानना चाहता हूँ
एक आइटम नंबर अगर होता क्या मालूम.
To be honest with you, Faridoon, मैं actually इतना नहीं सोचता हूँ कि भाई आपको मैं कैसे कॉम्प्रोमाइज करूँ ये वो. देखिए मैं क्या बिलीव करता हूँ कि true independent film is something that you produce, or you have some friends who believe in you and want to put in the money. That's when maybe you want to make something that is totally yours and uninhibited. Okay, but whenever people are putting money, they are putting their hard-earned money into it. So you have somewhere that responsibility, I feel. तो मुझे जब मसान बनाते हुए जब हमने शुरुआत की थी लिखने के लिए, that time I don't think me or Varun, none of us even thought that this film will ever get made. I mean, here I was pitching it around in Sundance, in France. So there was no thought that how is it going to happen. But I do want to tell you that we had different cuts. For Europe there's a different cut. I mean the rest of the world, but India we retained a different cut because there was a lot of flavor. There's a lot of fun. There's a lot of also like European cinema. The way it is a little like they don't want to be too emotional. Whereas as Indians, we want it. And I am Indian, so I want to show that. This is who I am, and I don't want to compromise on that. So that's why we kind of had two different versions of the film. Okay, in Europe, on all across Europe, the film ran with that. I mean, it was dubbed and whatever. But India, में, I feel that हम लोगों ने कभी ये नहीं सोचा कि यार ये इसमें commercial element नहीं है. I just felt that there is happiness, there is a lot of romance in it. There's also a lot of pathos, yes, but I feel I never saw it. Absolutely understandably that the film didn't do well at box office. It was understandable. Also, we came in the middle of, I think, two juggernauts. It was Baahubali and BajrangiBhaijaan. It was in the middle of it, so it was like cheaty hathi ko dekhna. It was like that. So, I don't begrudge it much, but it is that I don't think I'll of course try to do something more interesting in the sense like in terms of your craft, you try to change the look of it, you try to make it more appealing. Like the way what Raj has done in his film. It's so interesting to see how he's absorbed both the divides, and it still cinematically doesn't make you seem like, oh yeah. It's so nicely done, that aesthetically done. That I would like to do it aesthetically, but I think all of us would not want to compromise on what our worldview is or what our value systems are, which sort of show in films. Regardless of, let's say tomorrow if I make an action film or make a comedy film, or even any of us filmmakers would make, I don't think we'll ever compromise with our core gut, our core value system. That is never going to happen. Like, I'm absolutely against item numbers. So it fetishizes, the female body, and so I don't want to do that. That's just completely my value system. So I will not do it. But at the same time, I just want to give a parallel to it, is that at the same time, I do not want to, like, let's say Anurag's films, okay, the films, let's say, or even Shashank, what is made, that the milieu that is set in, if you're talking about a gangster, they are going to speak in expletives. That is their world. You have to show that. But I, as a person, may not fully like it, but I think it should be there. It should always be there. There should be all kind of people, all kind of cinema that should exist. And I can't hold a high horse that no, मैं क्यों दिखाऊं? मुझे पसंद नहीं आता, इसका मतलब ये नहीं कि वो होना नहीं चाहिए. Is what I mean. Sorry for the long answer.
Also, if I might just add one thing, Faridoon, you spoke about OTT and freedom, but ultimately, even on OTT, for example, Netflix, ultimately Netflix is the one who's also put in money for this. They are the ones who are. Yeah. So tomorrow, all of us, we are answerable, and we would also want these films to do well of a certain number, so that they also feel that their faith was justified, and that will actually give us more opportunity to create more films. So tomorrow, if an Ajeeb Daastaans 2 does happen, I think all of us will take bolder choices. We will feel that it worked. Now we can also express ourselves more. So I think it's always a dual thing. I think things have to be looked from its perspective. And when you say commerce, I think it's just the fact that the people who are putting, what Neeraj said rightly, कि किसी ने अपना hard-earned money लगाया है, we are satisfying their needs as well, and yet at the same time retaining what our core is as filmmakers or storytellers.
No, I think all of us are saying the same thing. The only thing that I said that cinema halls में आपको ticket purchase करना पड़ता है. I'm not saying who's spending money on what, but वो जो purchase वाला जो element होता है उसके बहुत से उसके बंदिशें होती हैं filmmakers. I think all of us we are aware of that. Okay, Kayoze, finally, tell us something about the process of writing. I've spoken to your father in detail about how important writing is for him. He's also turning a director. COVID happened in between. I think he would have been on by now, but he has done all these workshops in US, and he's passionate about writing as well. What was, how important was it for you to just have your writing correctly, both the dialogue as well as the screenplay?
I think whether it be this film or any film down the line, I think a script is king. And I think that whatever the written word, and I think that the way the screenplay flows as well as the way the dialogues flow and what it says is the king, is completely what you have to spend all your time on. I got very lucky that I got two writers on board who understood structure very well and nuance very well, and they put pen this film down together. And we've spent the most time writing this film. We spent really long time with fights and going back and coming back and on the drawing board and changing a track and what the film has to say. And you have to be clear about what the film wants to say. And through that, your plot points reveal, your nuances reveal. Everything is related to the final goal of what the film says. So I think that I really believe that as a medium, writing it supersedes any of the other things, whether even that be direction or cinematography. So if you have your script pat, if you have your script done, your script is really strong. I feel that is your fallback. While sometimes when the script is, that it's weak and that there are loopholes, then you have to do something intelligent while shooting or in the edit to make up for it. But you never have to ever go down any of those tropes if your script is king. So I think that for me, and I think for so many content creators, is that you realize that you have to spend your maximum effort on getting the film right on paper first.
Absolutely. All right. So lovely talking to you guys. Thank you very much, Shashank, Raj, Neeraj, as well as Kayoze. Congratulations for a great response. In these very unfortunate times, people are watching your content and it's making a difference in their lives. So, which is all the more commendable. So, congratulations, and looking forward to more exciting work from you guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Faridoon.
Faridoon. And please stay safe. Take care.
Yes.
Thank you very much. You as well, man.